Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to week 7 of our com151 Introduction to Microsoft Office class. This is Mark here, your instructor, and I hope that over the last 6 weeks you've enjoyed the class and learned some things about the Microsoft Office. We've covered a lot of ground so far. We've looked at Microsoft Outlook, the email program. We've looked at OneNote. We've looked at Microsoft Word and PowerPoint, and over the last couple of weeks we've been looking at Microsoft Excel. Microsoft Excel is a very powerful program. It's a lot of fun to use, but I'll be the first to admit that it takes quite a bit of time to learn it and master it. And I think no matter how many years you're actually using it, there are always little tips and tricks and things that you can learn about Excel. It's great for home budgets. Obviously, in a work environment, we do budgets in Microsoft Excel a lot. In HR, we use Excel for employee records, and at home I use Excel as a database, which we'll learn a little bit about. And it's just a very, very powerful program. It does take a little time to learn, so I hope that you don't get discouraged. I hope that the few weeks we've worked on it, that it just whets your appetite to learn more about it and be a power user. I know that a lot of times training sessions or even classes at college are solely devoted to just Excel. There's Excel Introduction, Excel beginning, intermediary, advanced. It just goes on and on and on. So it's such a powerful program. We've talked in Excel a little bit about charting, and charting is important. It gives you a visual representation of the numbers, and a lot of people at work use it. I also use it at home. I chart my budget for the family so that I can see visually what the biggest expenses are, things like that. And then you can kind of look at those charts and say, where can I save money? Because sometimes the numbers run together and they're just kind of hard to pick out little things where if you do a chart, sometimes the numbers just pop out at you and you're like, oh, I didn't see that. So charting is important. I like to say 2 things about charts. One, you need to make sure you use the right chart. We've talked about that to make sure that it actually conveys the information that you want. Number 2, you have to be careful with charts because people can change the scales and the information on the chart to make things look better or worse than they actually are. So when you look at a chart, oftentimes look at the scale to see if it makes things look worse or better than they really are, and that will help you. In Excel, I often put the charts on a separate page. You have the sheet 1, 2, 3, and you can add additional sheets. I like to have my numbers and data on one sheet or multiple sheets, if you will, but I like to have all my charts on one sheet as well so that it helps me to print things easier. So keep that in mind. You may find that helpful. From charts, we moved on to looking at the formulas and things, which is actually the meat of Excel. We've learned that all formulas start with the equal sign, that we use cell addresses when we're doing math instead of putting actual numbers in. That way we can always change the numbers and see how things would change. So if I say A1 plus B1 equals, I can change those numbers in those cells without having to redo the math, and it just helps me save work and be able to do what we call what-if analysis really, really easy. I do this oftentimes at the end of the year when I'm looking at my paycheck and I'm wondering, am I going to get a 1% raise, a 2% raise, 4 or 5% raise? And I would actually put it in Excel and say, okay, if this happens, here's what it would look like. And I play with my budget and so forth. I'll do things like if I pay off this particular debt, how much money would we have, and so forth. So by using cell addresses instead of the actual numbers, Excel lets you do what we call what-if analysis, and it just goes on and on. The key to formulas, as we've seen, is order of operations. So as we write a formula, we need to make sure that we take time and write it correctly. Obviously parentheses go first, and then you have your multiply, divide, add, and subtract, and so forth. and that's very, very important for us to get the right answer. So that takes a little bit of practice, but overall it's not too bad, I don't think. And then we also saw that Excel has a lot of pre-written formulas that saves us a whole lot of work. I know it shows you can use it for things like min and max and mode and averages. You can use it for statistics. There's a whole list of financial calculations that you can use, and if you're having to take some accounting classes or you're going into accounting, those financial calculations that are already built in for you would probably be very, very helpful. This week we're going to talk a little bit about working with multiple pages in Excel, bigger worksheets, workbooks if you please. We'll talk a little more about what if analysis and that sort of thing. So another week of Excel, and I hope that you'll enjoy it. I do want to remind you that we have recorded the third Zoom conference, so if you did not get to attend that, please click on the link and watch it. Send me an email or a note that you did, and I'll get you a grade into the grade book. It's an easy A, and hopefully that'll help you. If you have any problems, please let me know. We are in week 7, so we only have 4 weeks to go. Please take a look at the grade book. Anywhere that you see zeros, that means I don't have your work. You may have not done it, or it may not have crossed over. But what we should say is when you see a 0, that's flagged to say something's missing, and you need to go back and look and see what it is. Look at your overall grade and make sure you don't have any surprises there. And like I say, check out the grade book, and if you think you've done something that is not showing up, we need to talk before it becomes a crisis toward the end of the term. Keep in mind that the discussions need to be posted by the end of Wednesday night, with a second discussion by Saturday night. I see from time to time some folks are only doing one of the 2 discussions, and so you're only getting half of a very easy grade. So if you got any questions about that, let me know. I think overall the class is going well. I'm enjoying reading many of the posts and things that you're putting out there. So let me know if you got questions. I will see you in class.